How many hours of nutritional education do you think a medical student actually gets in their schooling? Are they really taught about health, or is it mostly just how to prescribe drugs? In this episode, you'll hear from Dr. Charles Penick, a medical doctor who graduated med school, but then continued his education to pursue the exact opposite of conventional care. If you've ever wondered how holistic or functional medicine compares to conventional mainstream practices, get ready because you're about to learn. Dr. Penick provides a clear picture of how the paradigms and approaches differ. Dr. Charles Penick is an integrative board-certified family medicine physician passionate about setting the trajectory for a strong and healthy life while promoting true vitality for each family member. In addition to the knowledge and experience derived from obtaining his medical degree, Dr. Penick is well-versed in nutritional health, detoxification, medical fitness, and health optimization, utilizing some of the latest scientific technologies and breakthroughs. Most people would love a more natural approach to health. So if that's you, you're going to love this episode. Hey, it's Autumn McLeese, your birth doula and Crunchy Mama source for choosing healthier, alternative ways of living. Because when you know better, you do better. Join me as we explore topics that might challenge what you know to be true when it comes to health, birth, and beyond. Let me help you think outside the box and empower you with steps to do better. Your best life could be on the other side of this next podcast, so join me now. All right, friends, I'm excited for today's show because we not only have on a medical doctor that's turned holistic, but also he happens to be a dear friend of ours. Help me welcome Dr. Charles Penick to the show. Charles, thanks so much for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Autumn.
I'm so excited to dive in and talk about all sorts of good stuff today. You know, we're going to talk today, and one of the reasons why I wanted to bring him on is because I wanted to really compare allopathic medicine to holistic medicine. You know, here Charles went through mainstream medical school and he chose differently than what actually the path he started off on. And that's actually going to be my first question for you, Charles. But I just want to share quickly my experience. You know, I found out about holistic medicine back 14 plus years ago now when I was diagnosed with this autoimmune condition that my doctor said he had no idea how I had it. And he also didn't really have a solution for me other than a medication that would essentially go to make my symptoms worse. That didn't seem like a very good plan to me. It didn't feel acceptable to take a path of getting better, but yet having risks of side effects that could make it worse. So I sought out a holistic doctor that I saw on a local health food store's website. There was all these different holistic doctors, and I found that very interesting. So I called them up, and I talked to a couple of them, found one, and asked her, "Can you help me?" And she said, "Yes, I feel very confident that I can help you." So I, started seeing her. That was years ago. And I fell in love with the mindset and the practice of holistic functional medicine and how it's so different from mainstream medicine. And that's what I'm hoping to do today is really kind of bring an awareness to that, because I feel like most people, they don't understand it, and therefore it might seem scary or it might seem out there and kind of foggy with what is it, how it can help them. And so that's what I'm really looking forward to today. So
Sure.
I appreciate it. So that first question, like, why did you start off on the path to mainstream medicine and then graduate and become a doctor of functional medicine?
Great question. So I think the journey actually starts from childhood for me, and I won't, go too much in depth, but I think a lot of times there's always a seed that's planted before that's often subconscious that we don't even realize that often comes to bear fruit later on in our life. Maybe a friend that you once upon a time thought was crazy shared something with you, but you never really forgot it. And then when you came to a place where you felt like you needed something different, then you said maybe there's something to that crazy friend and what they suggested. So, these are the kind of things that happen, that people plant seeds. So my my parents were tried to be a little bit more natural minded. My mom would, tell us to take charcoal or, golden seal, and rarely were we using something that was like an over the counter drug. It was always like try this tea or put this herb and herb salve on something. So it was, it seemed a little wacky, but I think it also instilled the principle in my mind that nature kind of has this compatibility with itself, meaning our bodies are we're natural beings, and then we put these other things from nature that combine with our bodies to bring about this healing process. And so, while it wasn't necessarily taught to me, I think it was just modeled. The idea was modeled to a certain extent. So,
Mm.
when
I love how you just said that really quick, is
yeah,
that, nature and humanity, I mean,
hmm
we were made to live within our environment the way God
hmm
made us. I mean, there is definitely a connection there.
Yeah, yeah. There's a matching process that I think was designed from the very beginning, and um, so the idea was, I guess you get educated and you think that you can be, very intelligent in your own eyes, and so you go to medical school and they tell you that you're the top 1% of minds in the U.S. or sorry in the world. This is the kind of things that they're sharing. And I I would certainly not say that I don't think I fit that category, but the idea is that it kind of puffs you up a little bit. And you're like, oh, and then the next thing you know, like, well, and we're gonna instill in you this wisdom to you top 1% of these brilliant minds. And so you start to think that you have all the knowledge, and then you back that up by it being evidence-based medicine, which has its own fallacies to it. When people really start to dive down and research what evidence-based medicine, much of evidence-based medicine actually is. But the point is that you do start to develop a little bit of an ego and a sense of, well, maybe what I was taught in the past, maybe what my parents modeled to me, had some merit, but it really wasn't what we really need to be learning, what we really need to be sharing with our patients. And so you can start to lose your way. And I'm saying that from my perspective. Of course, many other people feel like they may have found their way through medicine, but I can tell you this, that there were a lot of things that I thought I was learning how to treat, and then I began to realize that all we're doing is just refilling medications. And it was when I met my wife that it really brought back all that I learned from well, that I had seen modeled to me by my parents. And I saw people coming off of medications. I saw no longer a need for statins. I saw no longer a need for diabetic medications, things that people were technically supposed to be on for the rest of their life. And she was not pulling them off of that. She was not a doctor. She didn't have the credentials, so to speak, to say, hey, I want you to stop this. But she would just heal them, and then their doctor would pull them off of it because they're like, well, I guess you don't need to be on that anymore. I don't know, whatever you're doing, keep it up. And so it just opened to me this idea of like, wow, like there's so much more than what I'm getting taught. And I think the seed that my parents had kind of sowed really started to come to fruition. And I was like, this is what I want to do with my life, because I don't want to just be refilling medications for the next 30, 40 years, 50 years. So,
I love
yeah.
that. And for those that don't know, tell us quickly about your wife. What was she doing as a practice to help others?
Yeah. So my wife she's a nutritional therapy practitioner. And honestly, when I met her, she is so enigmatic about, the things that she believes. And it wasn't hard for me to be convinced. Well, it wasn't hard for me to convince, one, because she was very pretty. So I was like, I'll listen to what she has to say. And then, and then on top of that, she would give me articles to research. So, and then I'm like, whoa, this is interesting. Like, I see this research that's not what I'm getting in, the JAMA articles that we see, or the New England Journal of Medicine. And so started to realize that, wow, there's a lot more to research also than I realized. And as I was hinting at this idea of evidence-based medicine, it is very selective. A lot of it is